You know, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get is, yo, Mayo 3, my check engine light's on, what do I do? And this means that, you know, with the truck running, the check engine light, also known as the service engine soon light, is on. Well, this is going to kind of address that. Let's get some terminology out of the way first. The check engine light and the service engine soon light, they're the same thing. A code reader and a code scanner, well, for this video, they're the same thing. Now, high-end scan tool, something a little bit different, we'll get into that later. When your check engine light comes on, it means that the computer, this thing right here, it sees a fault in one of the many circuits that it monitors or controls. When the computer detects a fault, it stores what's called a diagnostic trouble code, or DTC, in its memory, and it also turns the check engine light on. It does not tell you what needs to be replaced. It just tells you where the fault lies as kind of like a guide. It's important to keep that in mind. So before you ask your brother-in-law what the light's on for, and he has you replacing the cam sensor or a coil or a throttle body or a gas pedal, and before you go out to the parts store and ask the parts guy what the light's on for, and he sells you this bullshit stuff to pour in your gas tank, you know what I mean? You got to get the code read first. So what does it mean to read the codes or scan the codes in your truck? What it means is using one of these little interfaces to talk to the computer in your truck. So I went out and got a couple cheapy code readers, kind of affordable, both under 50 bucks. Never even used this thing. Alright, so let's go in the truck and see what we got here. So in my 03, the OBD2 ports right down here, kind of right over the gas pedal. And what we're going to be doing with these tools are just plugging it into the port. I've got my ELM 327 plugged in to the OBD2 port. On my phone, I'm going to open up the torque app, and I'm going to turn the key on too for this, all the way forward to run. Truck doesn't have to be running for this. So according to the ELM and the torque app, we have P0442, evaporative emission control system leak detected, small leak. So let's see what the Actron CP125 says. Plug that butthole in, key on, one code, P0442. So it looks like the Actron pulled up the code number, but it doesn't give you the description of what it is. So using the ELM and the torque app, P0442, the Actron pulled up P0442, and let's see how those cheapies stack up against something that costs, you know, over 100 times as much. And we have P0442, evap emission system small leak. Alright, so we got it scanned for codes. The next thing to do, Google. This morning I typed in Trailblazer P0442, had 16,000 hits. You can see what's worked for other people as far as that goes. You know, some things aren't really cut and dry, and it does take some diagnostics. You know, at least on the Trailblazers, some codes can be fixed with just a part change. I hate saying stuff like that because you guys know me, I like to test shit, you know what I'm saying? But the P0128 for the thermostat being stuck and the P0340 for the cam sensor, it's almost all the time just a parts change. Some codes can be fixed without even replacing parts. With these things, P0171, I don't know how many now I've been seeing with the intake bolts loose. Tighten up them intake bolts, clear the code, it's fixed. You know what I'm saying? Some codes need to be diagnosed. P0014, P0016, cam crank stuff. These two little cheapy code readers can't touch any of that stuff it takes to, you know, see what's wrong with that. Since we're talking about check engine lights, let's turn this one off. At least on my phone here, clear faults on ECU. We'll go ahead and do that. Just heard a bunch of shit reset under the hood. Well, as it's doing this right here, ignition's readiness, you can see that since the codes were cleared, the computer's got to retest a bunch of shit. And sometimes that can take a long time, especially with this evaporative system incomplete. Here's a fun fact. You know, if I went to the gas station right now and filled this truck up, and as long as I kept the tank full, it will never run that test, and it'll never turn the check engine light on for P0442. That's why a lot of times what you'll see is, you know what I mean, you turn off the light and then it's usually, oh, well 2 or 3 days later the light came back on. Because it takes some time to run these readiness tests. Evap, like I said, it can take 2-3 days, and if you keep the tank full, it won't run. It's like that on a lot of cars. It'll run this when the tank's between 15 and 85%. So if there's too much gas or too little gas, it won't even run it. So if I was to keep it in that one of those thresholds, the light would not come on for evap leak because it would never test the system. Some things like misfire, fuel system, other crap, you know, they almost turn green right away. Like as soon as the codes were cleared out and I restarted the truck, it ran them shits right away. Well, another fun fact, even though I just cleared the codes and I know that there's nothing going on in this truck, as long as the key's on, the service engine soon light is on. I've seen that mentioned before, so I thought I'd throw that in there. Some people think that that could be a problem. It's not. You know, sometimes in these trucks with certain codes, it doesn't turn the light on right away. You know what I mean? This truck had PO 128 a long time ago before I knew anyone would be interested in watching this kind of stuff. And I just put a thermostat on it and it fixed it. And the thing was that even though I went in with my scan tool and I pulled out PO 128, it never turned the check engine light on. The same thing with the PO 340. I have a video up for that, and it was intermittent cruise control cutting out and shit, and it did that forever. And what happened was it was setting the PO 340, but it wasn't turning on the light. The check engine light can affect cruise control. So for the cruise control, it stores the last 8 times cruise control turned off, and I'm gonna put up a picture of one that had a DTC cause the cruise control to disable. So you can see in this history, the DTC is what caused cruise control to turn off. Does cruise control still work with this PO 442? Let's take a quick ride. The trouble code for the evap system leak, it's not going to stop cruise control from working. There's a lot of benefits to owning your own little code reader, even something cheap like these. You know, being able to come in here and read your own codes and do it yourself in your driveway. One thing that happens a lot that I read a lot on the forums is somebody does some work under the hood, unplugs a bunch of stuff, and they start the truck up and the light's on. And a lot of times it's just because they left something unplugged. You know, if you're able to go in there and see it right away, you're going to save yourself a ton of time looking for that one thing that was left unplugged. The most recent one was the dude left his air intake sensor unplugged and started the truck and turned the light on and went through some hoops trying to figure out what was wrong with it. There was this dude on GMT Nation who took his truck to the body shop. I guess he had to get something painted or whatever, and when he got it back, it was running kind of bad and the check engine light was on. So he went out with the code reader and he pulled up a whole bunch of different codes, you know, seemingly totally unrelated to what was actually going on. So what he ended up doing was going out, clearing out the codes, and then he started the truck back up, went for a ride or whatever, and then re-scanned it, and there was really only 2 codes in it. I mean, it went from potentially being 100 different things that could have been wrong with it to I just needed spark plugs. Now some places like AutoZone and stuff, they'll scan your ride for free, you know, and that's awesome. But sometimes your truck's stuck in the driveway. You have no means of getting it there. You know, that's why having something like these, you know what I'm saying, definitely is worth having. So while AutoZone might scan for free, a lot of shops don't scan for free. Some places are 90 bucks for a scan. 90 bucks. I didn't pay 30 bucks for either one of those little code readers that I showed. You know what I'm saying? And the shops, you know what I'm saying, you just come in, you have the check engine light on, and they say things like, we'll scan for parameters out of specification, we'll retrieve diagnostic trouble codes, and they make it sound like, you know what I mean, they're doing all this stuff, but the reality is they're going out, they're plugging something in and writing down a number. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times that $90 doesn't include diagnosing what's wrong with it. That was just $90 just to tell you you have PO 442 for a small evap leak. You know what I mean? 90 bucks, you know what I'm saying? That's why these things are worth it. You know? So both of these things I showed, both under 30 bucks. They both are excellent stocking stuffers, or they also make cool gifts for Leif Erikson Day. Okay, so let's just say you came out here, you did the scan, then you Googled Trailblazer 442, and you got 16,000 hits, you know, for that problem. And when you do your search, the first hit you might get is to a forum that has a 1 million+ post archive. But the people that helped build that archive are now over at the forum that you see in my end credits. Now about this PO 442, now right before my son was born, I had a thread up where I talked to the guys about them fixing my truck. We went through some steps and some troubleshooting a little bit, and let me tell you what, these guys nailed it. Now things have been crazy busy for me lately, so I've never been able to actually go back and update that thread, but those guys were on it. I don't know if you can see all these little hairline cracks in this gasket here. And that's what's been causing this P0442. And I gotta admit, it doesn't get any easier than that, but that shit rarely happens, you know what I'm saying? So them guys, they didn't even need to see the gas cap. They didn't even ask me to take a picture of it or nothing. They were pretty much sold on it being a gas cap. Yeah, sometimes with like PO128 and PO340, you know what I mean? It's quick part changes because the history of them being the root cause of the failure is overwhelming. You know, if you've got 1,000 people that said, hey, I put in a cam sensor and it fixed it, well, you're probably going to be going out and putting a cam sensor on it before going crazy with diagnostics. I'm not going to show any of this for PO442. I'm not going to mention PO442 in the title of the video or none of that stuff because I can't even trace most evap leaks here at home. You really need a smoke machine to pressurize the system with smoke to find the leak. It involves actuating, you know, like the purge solenoid and the vent valve. It involves reading the fuel tank pressure sensor. So I just don't think it would be right to say, hey, this is PO442, replace your gas cap, and you know what I mean, it'll fix it. Well, I hope this clears up some stuff about the check engine light, reading the codes, some other odds and ends that you probably never seen anywhere else, you know what I mean? Again, it's really encouraged to go out and buy a cheap code reader. Innova is a brand that makes little code readers like this. They're good stuff too. In fact, the only ones I really personally had a problem with is the ones that use like your laptop to read codes. It just seems like they're slow as freaking molasses. Alright, so stay tuned, because coming up next, something that you've never seen before on this channel. I mean, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. See, I talk to a lot of motherfuckers about their cars. I love it when a woman goes to a repair shop and some clown there tries to rip her off, you know what I'm saying? And then she finds my channel, does it herself, and saves a lot of money in the process. You know, that's awesome. I mean, it's no secret, some shops, they eye a woman up and then just try to take her to the cleaners for their lack of knowledge. So coming up next, a woman with basically no mechanic experience whatsoever fixes her truck, saves about $300 in the process. Now I know my channel's mostly a male audience and some of the things that I say and do on here are for the guys, but for you women out there, if you can look past that, you might really like what you're going to see coming up next. You know, this isn't like that automotive garbage shows on TV where a little ditzy girl comes out in the booty shorts, doesn't know what a ratchet is, and all the guys beat on their chest for her attention. You know what I'm saying? It's the real shit right here. Real people doing real fixes, you know what I mean? And I know I promised y'all the 2,000 subscriber special. I don't have enough outtakes to do a video just for subscriber 2,000, so I'm just going to throw it into the end of one of my upcoming videos for details, how to win some cool stuff. I guess we got a little bit off topic there, but yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, if you like what you see, subscribe to my shit. You know, when I finally had time to get back on YouTube and stuff and catch up on some comments and some shit like that, man, I can't believe the nerve of some fucking people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why would somebody get pissed off that how you record? Why would somebody get pissed off that I'm showing the GM scan tool? You know what I'm saying? Get pissed off to the point where they start making little posts about you don't need the Tech 2 scan tool. The thing about that is that I've never ever once told anybody else that they need the Tech 2 scan tool. I've never done that.
Why would you?
I bought it for me because I mostly work on GMs here and I need to be able to fix anything on one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yup.
That's the only reason I have it. I don't know why some people are straight jellyfish about it. I don't get that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why people would be upset that I have that tool. You know what I mean? But it's like, I see stuff I want and can't afford all the time on YouTube. I don't go and leave them a bad comment. You know, man, comments and the little thumbs up and thumbs down buttons, man, that shit's troll tools right there, man. Fuck that. I'd rather get less views than have to deal with that garbage, you know what I'm saying? I think at 1,000 subscribers I gave away a nice ratchet and a socket, and I got hate for that too. I don't understand that, you know what I mean? I don't know, I do it for the people. I can't believe people would hate on that. I know I've talked a lot of shit about shops and other technicians, and I understand getting the flack from that, but not flack from just regular YouTube users, man. Fuck y'all.